Oh, yeah, there it was. Hello, everybody. On behalf of the organizers of this seminar, I would like to wish you a warm welcome to this seminar. My name is Roger Skjerva. I'm from the ICT Norway, which is an independent association for the Norwegian ICT industry in Norway. And Innovation Norway has given me the mission to moderate this seminar. So without any further ceremony, I would like to introduce from Enterprise Estonia, which is the sister organization of Innovation Norway, the organization's CEO, Mr. Hanno Thomberg. Welcome.
Two, three, it gets here. Dear partners and guests, for a moment I thought that we are on a presentation of Microsoft because this Windows screen was for a very long there. But I hope everything would go fine with the seminar today, and I have a very great honor to open the Norwegian-Estonian Green IT Cooperation Seminar that is hosted by Tallinn ICT Week and Innovation Norway. It's a great pleasure to welcome you here, and you from Norway who are impressively represented at today's event. We have around 100 participants. All of them have not made into this conference room, but I think they will come in the due course, including Norwegian companies such as IKT Norge, Abelia, ITS Norge, who are also giving us presentations today. So I would especially like to highlight those participating companies who have found their way back to Estonia after the last Norwegian delegation visit to Estonia back in 2014. And as most of you remember, Estonian companies, together with our president, made a state visit to Norway in the autumn of 2014. This reflects an increasing interest towards Estonia and Estonian companies, and I must say that interest from Estonian side towards Norway has grown tremendously over the last year. Just to bring an example, we brought in a new expert representative for Estonia in Norway for this fall because the interest from Estonian companies towards Norway has grown threefold. And I think that's because of the good relations we have with both countries. That's because of the quality products Estonia makes and can export into Norway. Also, many of the Estonian companies have taken their businesses to Nordic markets, have also created cooperation with strong, solid, and trustful partners in Norway. An important tool and great help for fostering the business relations between Estonia and Norway is Norway Grants financial instruments. 15 high-quality green ICT projects have been granted by Norwegian grants and are now implemented in close cooperation of Estonian and Norwegian companies. Several project promoters and also their Norwegian partners are here today, and I have a good chance to thank everyone who has worked for these projects and wish a strong and lasting cooperation between Estonian and Norwegian companies. The Estonian ICT Week that will start today and that will continue until Friday is the event where we would like to see you all. And I hope that you will have time to visit other conferences and events during that week and to take part in ICT Week, special tours to e-showroom, Tallinn Science Park, and Innovation Center Mektori. So I wish you a productive seminar and inspiring new contacts. Welcome to Tallinn. And before I finish, I have to say that it's a very busy week in Estonia. A lot of guests, lot of new meetings and contacts. So you have to apologize me, but I have to leave because the Minister of Regional Affairs is waiting for me at Enterprise Estonia. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Thomberg, we thank you for these good welcome words, and we think you have a good enough excuse to leave us now. but we appreciate that you could visit us. And from the Norwegian side, I think we appreciate that you are going to establish a branch representative in Norway, yeah, in Oslo, I guess. Yeah. All right. Let's start with the big picture. So to help us with the big picture, we have asked Mr. Tarje Bjørgum from Abelia to speak about IT and the big society challenges. Welcome.
This one? Yes. Oh, brilliant. Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity to address you this evening. And thanks to the organizers for making this happen. My name is Tarje Bjørgum, and I will try to give you a short overview, seen from a helicopter perspective, on like what are the really big issues before we go further down into details later on this afternoon. I represent an organization in Norway called Abelia. We are the Norwegian Business Association of Knowledge and Technology-based companies. That is, we have about 1,700 companies in our organization. About 40 to 50% of them are from the ICT telecom sector. But besides, we have also a consultancy, innovation infrastructure, research institutes framework, education, private education, design, and also the third and civil sector companies. Why do I say that? That is because we believe that these different branches together make a really asset when you combine research, telecom, industry into solving societal issues. As you know, there are some challenges in the world. It's a pretty chaotic world right now. We see that even in Norway. We have unemployment rates are increasing. There are all kinds of things happening. But there are some specific challenges that we all share. Most of the healthcare systems around the world are stumbling. They need to improve. They need innovation. We have a climate crisis that need new technologies, a new way of thinking. Not at least, we have also what we call a more resource crisis, that we have to think different about how we manage resources. We also have people tend to move into the cities. Over half of the world's population live in cities right now, and it will increase. And not at least, we have issues regarding productivity and economic growth. So in this perspective, we are striving to find new way to be Goliath and David, how to overcome these problems. And as you all know in this audience, there is nothing like ICT when it gets into innovation. But it's not about the technology in itself, it's about how we use it. We have from EU, we know that over 50% of productivity growth comes from ICT, and it affects the business and it affects all other sectors. And especially when you look to Estonia, we know that you are really making something out of this because you move so fast ahead. And even in Sweden, Norway, also the most, for some years we had some economists that said that no, ICT was like a pen. It didn't change anything, but now even the most hardcore economists think that if you apply ICT in the right way, it will really make some magic. When it comes to ICT development in general, there are some clear mega trends, you may say. We are entering the Internet of Things, goes pretty fast. Everything that can be connected and censored will be connected and censored all over. We have gone into mobile area. We have a social media explosion, and we have a cloud-based development that moves everything into the sky. This is in general in the whole Western world. Another thing is that the technology are now moving in such a fast way that you get very small things. You get miniaturization and integration. I had the opportunity to visit, maybe you have also done that, this international festival South by Southwest in Texas this year. And I was struck with something. The user-centrism is now over there. Before it was about technology, now all kinds of industry put the person, the human being, in front. And it's about needs and how to, and we say wearables going into the shops is starting to get trends. It's not like some fancy thing anymore. It's about user-centrism. And that leaves us into a position where we maybe the first time in the human history, we can really understand human behavior. We're moving into a world of decisions based on facts and real-time information, not assumptions or theories. 5 years ago, big data was something that IBM sold all over the world. Today, you have small applications that are going into, small business can use big data in a way they have never done before. One example is how this affects business models, of course. And what we see that this is an example from Amazon, where they almost give away the reading books for free. But in return, you have access to the whole population to say that what books have you read in chapter 2? Why did you stop reading at chapter 2? And when you generate that on statistical level, you have very, very powerful tools. And until now, I believe that we have seen, we have been talking about green ICT from a more incremental way. It's about fixing the system in some way. But when we get into real-time data, real-time analysis, we can go into really transformative CO2 reductions. We can build business models in a complete way, a new way that we have done before. And I'm not the first one to say that. There's a guy here. He said that it takes a new way of thinking to solve the problems that were created by the old way of thinking. And I think that now we are in a position to do exactly that. How can we start building on new way of addressing societal problems? I used to say that, I regularly say that when people are thinking inside silos, inside organizations, nothing happens. But the really great thing is that when organizations meet together and new ideas and innovation occur. This development, it has also been notioned the sixth wave of innovation. Because when the world gets connected, when the worlds are censored, we can go into things like circular economy. We can see that we have a resource-driven economy that waste is not waste anymore. We can put a price on it, and we can do things in another way. They say that the sixth way of innovation is about sustainability, radical resource productivity. It's about natural resources, but it's also about human resources and information. And what we see right now is that spectacular things are happening all over the world, from clean technology to digital mapping to online collaboration. And we see new business models arise because it's not about the technology in itself, but I rest a little bit about how the banking sector has succeeded during the last 10 years. What they have been doing, all other sectors are about to do. It's about role innovation as well. It's not about technological innovation, because what they have done by digitalization, they have over some years, they have put all the production onto the consumers. I am the bank myself. And this will also happen in health sector. It will happen in transportation sector. It will happen in public sector in general. You have a series of role innovations. Up till today, there are some workers that don't like development that fast, but this will happen. And the optimization will say that about half of the jobs that exist today will not be there in 15 years from now. And that is dramatic, but they say also that it will be created at least the same amount of jobs, but there will be another competencies coming out from that. Is there Uber, is that in Estonia as well? No? Is it because of regulation? Oh. Lyft and Uber is the most known transportation companies, and they are really doing disruptive innovation with the whole transportation industry. They don't own their cars. You can hire transport where needed. I guess further on this day we can see some examples of that. In Norway, it's not legal yet, but in 1 year, 2 years' time, it will happen. Because this is about doing a lot more resource-effective, a more user-centric approach than the taxi industry has done so far. Also seen some brilliant movies about self-driving cars and self-driving planes. The last one there, I've seen a prototype of that. It's planned commercialized in 2017. I'll guess it take a little bit time before we have our own self-driving planes. But a lot of things is happening right now. This is from Boston. When it comes to circular economy and that kind of thing, this is trash bins saying when they are full, when they have to be emptied. So you don't really need to go around, say, municipal cars to empty the trash bins. They'll tell you. And just one example of that. I also mentioned healthcare system, where we know that research has shown that about 71% of all medication is wrong among elderly institutions. But doing it the more digital way, you will increase it to 98%. So the thing is, how do we achieve this? Because it sounds like a little bit of fairy tale, but the next 15 years, 575,000 billion Norwegian kroner are going to be invested in transport, buildings, infrastructure. And my point is that the way all over the world, the way we invest this money is ending up with how we succeed in the same area. For we can continue doing the same as we have always done, but I guess it will be a Uber or a Lyft or some other country or whatever that will be there, taking the chances to move ahead. Or we can be in forefront of it and be prepared when it all happens. Because this is going to happen, the world will be connected, and we have some policy issues regarding competence. In Norway, we lack a lot of skills to make this happen. I don't know that a stronger cooperation between Norway and Estonia can help that. There are also other ways to do. We can imply regulation of the future more today, and we can focus on research, development, test beds, and so on, and learn from each other. Because this region, the Nordics and the Baltics, are very well prepared for this development. But then we need to act together. That is what I would like to say, like a very helicopter brief introduction today, and I hope we join the flight into the future, and wish you all a nice and interesting afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tarje. He's a good friend of mine, but also a competitor. So I think you gave us an excellent overview of our close future. And maybe the most important sentence from Tarje was that in the future, everything that can be connected will be connected. And I have a friend at my job, hardcore internet believer, and he used to add, and if it's not possible to connect to internet, then it will not be relevant. And I said, that can't be true. Something has to be, still have to be relevant. What about love, family? But he says, no exceptions. Nothing will be relevant if it's not possible to connect to the internet. What do you think? Do you think he's right? How many thinks he's wrong? Give me a hand. Okay, half of you have the courage to think so. All right, we'll see. I'm going to give the floor to the next speaker. He's going to address the issue transport and logistics IT, and which is an issue I know a lot of people in the audience has a great interest in. So please welcome Mr. Trond Hovland, Managing Director at ITS Norway. Welcome. You can give him a hand. Yeah.
Okay. No, thank you for the kind introduction and thank you for the invitation. I've been to Estland a couple of times before on the same invitation from Innovation Norway and I've been conducting a few meetings in Norway as well with the Estonian delegations. We had one last week, actually. We have not managed to get a lot of cooperation within the field of transportation, but this area is still open. So that's why I'm here, and I'm also glad to be here. I am going to try to give you an overview over the field of ITS, Intelligent Transportation Systems. Some of you who are fanatics might know of this from before, but anyway, I will try to see a little bit about the business opportunity that we have. So first, a few words about ITS Norway, then a little bit of the trends and the possibilities that I see that might be of common interest, and one example of how we do cooperations with foreigners in ITS Norway. We're quite a small enterprise. We have only 65 members, maybe even not even that. This is the time when we put out the invoices and all of a sudden somebody is not paying it, and then we have to reduce the number. So we are struggling a little bit with the membership level compared to the two other big, Abelia and IKT Norge, which is also here. Anyway, we are about 12 years old. We have very solid founders. We have the road administration, rail administration, and coastal administration, which all, together with the private sector in Norway, wanted to spur the technology shift in transportation. They started this in actually more than 12 years ago, but since we started ITS Norway, we have had a steady growth of implementation of ITS and ICT systems in the transport sector. We do work most in Norway. We have most of our businesses in Trondheim, Bergen, and Oslo, but also in Stavanger and Bodø, which is far to the north, and a little bit in Grenland. And we also have in the audience people who run those areas, both in the name of ITS Norway and also on their own. But most importantly, maybe these days, is that we do cooperation through ITS nationals, which give us an outreach to more than 30 countries, which you see on the map here. And we have a good connection with ITS nationals. So we know a lot about what's going on in each of these countries that we actually also cooperate quite a bit with. We have a lot of EU projects, which is kind of made out of these countries that you see on the map on the right side, and we want more of projects. ITS Norway is facilitating meeting places like this in order to get up and going projects, research projects, business projects, all kinds of projects. So to move on to what I think is the most interesting part of ITS. When it comes to policy, I've tried to divide it in a little bit to different sectors here. If you talk to the government in Norway or around Europe, the exploitation of the infrastructure and the vehicles themselves is the most important thing. If we want to have this into the national transportation plans in Norway, you have always to angle it in a way that you can use what already exists even better than you did before, and that you can put more people into the public transportation systems or into cars in general. This also goes for train and train rails and the sea and the coast as well. In the ICT sector, it is also mentioned here, autonomous driving and cooperating systems, the Internet of Things, is a very strong driver within ITS. And if cars are going to drive automatically, like planes already do almost. Also how the rail system will develop in the future. We will see that Internet of Things will play a major role. Also, in order to pick up all the data that is become available through Internet of Things, we need big data analytics, real-time decisions, very, very quick decisions, even predictions into the future of how the situation in the traffic or in the transport will be just a few hours ahead. We see from the user perspective, integrated transportation systems will be, and services will be the trend for the future. We see that we want to have one payment card for all transport. We want to be able to come from A to B in one single go. We don't want to look up for every mode or form of transportation that we use. look up another different web page or go on using the mobile phone. We want to do it with one go on the internet, one go when you book and one go when you pay, and then you can only validate your way through the transportation system. This is a long, at least in Norway, will be a long way to go, but that's the trend in general. But maybe the most important and strong driver that we see now is the shared ownership and use. We know that Ford and Mercedes and BMW all have bought companies, shared transportation companies like buying parts in Hertz and in Budget and those kind of car hire companies. I think even Volvo owns Hertz at the moment. And this is also a direction into the future that we want to share more. We don't want to own our own transportation means, we want to share it. And this is changing fundamentally the business transportation sector. It helps very much in Norway that we have a Minister of Transportation who is really eager to move into the technology and the transport altogether. He came with us to Detroit last year and stayed 5 days on a big fair that was organized there by ITS World. And he knew more about what was going on there than most of our members. And he could even make the best questions after the presentations. So this is a minister that makes it really easy for us to work in ITS at the moment. He is keen to do this. And as a follow-up of that, I think also the national transportation plan will be marked by him in the sense that we will have the word ITS in the plan more than once in the future. Well, I'm going to talk you through a little bit about the things that there are possibilities to make money in the future and where the business side is. And I will start with how to share the ride. These are examples of very large exploitation degrees from different countries and means of transport. It's not the normal case. We know that the taxis in Norway is empty more than 70% of the time. We know that in rush hour, 95% of all the passenger seats in cars are empty. We know that 20% of the trucks in Germany runs empty, more or less all the time. And we know that cross-mode transportation, where you have goods from land to a harbor or terminal and onto the sea, is very poorly exploited. All these trends, we will need ICT and ITS systems and services to try to reduce, because we cannot afford to build the road and the infrastructure in the future in a way that it will cover up for the growth. I don't know how it is in Estonia, but in Norway we have the largest city is increasing by 10% over the next 10 to 15 years when it comes to cars on the street. And I just heard that in Beijing we have 120,000 new cars each month on the roads. It's not going to work. You have to use more efficiently. And then, as it was mentioned by the previous presentation, there are some actors sniffing out these niches that is created by this puzzle in the transportation sector. They will provide new services. And if you did a Google scan or a search 10 years ago on carpooling or shared rides, you will have like maybe 50,000 hits already done. Now you will have in the millions. And there are a lot of different actors trying to exploit the potential of sharing the rides in the transportation sector. And Uber was already mentioned by the previous speaker. And we have BlaBlaCar, which is a shared ride company, which you can, maybe you know it here in Estonia as well, but you can have hitchhiking from Spain to Germany or within Germany or around most of Europe. We have a lot of those systems in Norway up and running as well. They are not very successful in Norway, but still they are coming. And Uber is, rightly said, pressing on the legislation in this area, and soon they will win. We have had talks with the Ministry of Transport to see how much they can charge as a private-owned taxi without violating the law. At the moment, it's out of the question, but it will come into the question pretty soon. Everything is going to be changing very, very rapidly. I don't know if you can see this. This is a kind of integrated services that we will need. In Norway, we have a few of these services up and running, but nothing as well functioned as this German Deutsche Bahn's means of transportation, where you can come from A to B. Well, all these means. Here you have integrated planes. Somewhere here there are planes. There are hired cars, there are buses, trams, railway, and also blah blah car. Hitchhiking is into the picture. If there is an offer for a ride between these two destinations, it will pop up here. This is quite new, and I haven't seen that more than 2 places. That is in this one and a Dutch similar portal. This is the way I think the users of the transportation system will like to have it in the future, on the cell phone, not on the web. Well, I said that there is a lot of free capacity in the vehicles, but also on the road there are a lot of free capacity. If vehicles drive like 3 to 5 meters behind each other, you will free up to 70% of the road network as well. This will free a lot of capacity for new cars, of course, but also for bicycling, public transport, and other means of transportation that we maybe even know at the moment. So the way to make cars move more smoothly and closer will be very interesting for the future. Also mentioned before, the Google car. I want to mention this because there's a lot of business opportunity in kind of see how Google do this. And I will show you some more examples in a flash. Google kind of measure their own geometry and with laser scanning. So all the gray stuff on the screen here is the geometry of the roads that the Google cars themselves has measured. And then when they run again on top of this platform that they've made themselves, all the moving parts, the purple and the green stuff here, is making the scene for them to drive and to do the autonomous driving on. They don't even take sensor information from the roadside. They do this by looking at the traffic signals and the signpost and interpret them. In the future, this will be a little bit different, we think. Also, if I can start here, in less than 1 month ago, there was an Audi driving from Los Angeles to San Francisco all the way to New York by itself, with journalists hanging behind and watching. Nobody touched the steering wheel. It could go all the way itself. It did not measure the road ahead of it. It kind of used the GPS systems and that it could watch where the edge of the roads were, and it could kind of maneuver through the traffic, but mostly on big highways so far. In the country of the Netherlands, Germany, and Austria, they have set up this road, which is kind of an instrumented road, where you can do autonomous driving. But they will use the more advanced systems, where you have signals from the ground, from the sensors along the road, to help kind of get through the traffic. But you see here, there's a picture of a guy who is sitting and taking a course, because he cannot be a driver anymore, because the truck will be driving automatically in the future, so he has to have a new job. Or maybe he can just sit in there and do nothing. But anyway, it will be possible in a very short while to drive this distance without touching the wheel. Like the vehicle will keep in touch with the roadside equipment and also with the GPS systems, of course. This is made possible by this concept, which is a standard ITS station, where you have 4 components that are standardized internationally. It will fit into the car's CAN bus in the future, into the mobile phone or whatever device you have, also into the traffic control centers, but then also into all the equipment along the road. The same thing will be downloaded. The same architecture will go for all of them, but they will download different applications for where they are. That means that when you approach a city in the future, you will download the policy of the city. Possible to drive through School Street at certain hours of the morning, noon, or if you can go through a tunnel with dangerous goods and that sort of thing. All this will be exploited through using this kind of system. And this is an open market. The standards are there, and we are starting to make application for it. Then I move into Hårfagre, which is the king who assembled Norway to one country. We are trying to assemble the digital information in the transport sector into one realm, into one platform, in order to sustain the transfer of goods from the road to harbor, to a boat, and onto rail in a kind of seamless manner. And of course, as I told you before, we do the same for the transport of persons. This has been a project that has been going on for like 5 years now. It's not a success because nobody wants to own this thing, but still it has thrown off a lot of spin-off projects on the way. Even EU projects and Horizon 2020 projects is coming out of this thinking. This kind of stage is needed in all countries and even in the EU. Maybe not as rigid as it looks here, but something is going to pick up all the information that comes out of the big data, all the sensors in real time, and combine it with the statistical information about the geometry of the roads and so forth. It's not a technical issue. We have the specification for this, both for the big data part of it and for the boring platform part of it. So we can start making software connected to it. And we do that in 3 different projects at the moment to test it. So to sum up a little bit about how we work within ITS Norway, we try to stand on these 3 platforms where carpooling and integrated transport is one of them, where we try to motivate people to use one car more, car sharing, and to have projects where we use this ICT station to have cars driving closer to each other. And then we have this Hårfagre data consolidation platform, which also will be kind of a national service platform for transportation services. In all of these, we have projects that is most of them Norwegian, but also a lot of them have participants from abroad. And we would love to have more of that. These are some of the Horizon 2020 projects that we are working at the moment. Green distribution in the Oslo area, and we have goods from land to sea, which uses the Hårfagre platform. And then we have what we call Sintef 3, which is a platform to use more of the road infrastructure and have the car drive closer to each other. And we have a long list of projects with Toulouse in France, which I will come back to. And then we have a small, beautiful project which is initiated by a guy in the audience somewhere here, where we have Smarter City with Bodø as a starting point. So we are open to suggestions from you, and we will be glad to include you in the same kind of projects. We do a lot of working with the outside world, and especially Japan and America and the Netherlands. We have mature connections. We do send people on a lot of delegations. We have prepared one for Singapore. We had just had 2 in Washington State and British Columbia. We will go to Bordeaux later this year, and also we go a lot to Toulouse. Nice drink there with our friends and cook up more projects. So how do we do our cooperation? We try to work out of this kind of audiences to a smaller task force, where we kind of set out to identify exactly what are the mutual challenges and what can we do to set up a project solving it. And we find out, or we sniff out the competence that is needed, and we also are very good at finding possible partners for projects. So this is how we help our members setting up Horizon 2020 projects. Then we also do common seminars, like we have here 3 or 4 different examples of. Multi-charging is for the electric vehicle infrastructure. I see that also as a trend, which was on my previous slide, that the people who buy electrical car are also more prone to use ICT to merge it into the transportation. My wife has a Leaf, which she's online with, and she even exchanges SMSs at night before she goes to sleep with it. So I'm kind of jealous of that Leaf now. Yeah. Carpooling looks maybe boring, but how to get more people to share one car is a tough challenge. And I dare you to come on and work with us on those. Big data, of course, and ITS, which is the same system what I told you about, the ITS station. I hope that we can initiate projects together within these examples or other examples that you might have. This is a little bit from how we work in Toulouse. We have an MOU, Memory of Understanding, between the Toulouse municipality and Oslo municipality, and it's very, very well anchored. It is the kind of the mayor of Oslo that helped us set up this meeting, and we have had, over the last 16 months, we have had meetings with this Toulousian clusters, industrial clusters, to set up projects. And it's very, very well attended meetings, and very easy to set up meetings in Oslo and in Toulouse on this. So now we have smart parking as one, multi-charging for electric vehicle as one, and we have a shared ride with the municipality of Toulouse and Oslo as one, that we are trying to get funding for through the EU and merge it into Horizon 2020 projects. So if this is a model that can be used here, we are very open to learn more from you. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Then I think you gave us a good picture of the challenges and opportunities in this field, and maybe especially for those among us that are going to make solutions and businesses in this field. So thank you. As you may have recognized, I have not challenged you to ask questions after the speakers, but it is possible if you have burning important questions to ask. Of course, you can just raise your hand, but the thought is that you can make the coffee break to discuss and ask questions to the speakers. But of course, if you have any important to say of relevance for us all, then you are more than welcome to say something. So just raise your hand if you have something. Now we're gonna have a presentation of the Norwegian companies attending to this seminar. Is there going to be a picture here? Yeah? All right, here's the text. Abele has already introduced themselves, so we can take the next one. Is this maybe this one? Or all right. Am I going to do something here? What is this sound? Yeah. ITS Norway, that was the last speaker. They are here in Estonia to find all kinds of partners for Norwegian members and new suppliers for the public sector in Norway, and set up cooperation between ITS Norway and peers in Estonia. Frekk Forlag, naughty publisher. Not that naughty, but they is together with a think tank publishing a book, Restart Europe, in 2016 about innovation and entrepreneurship in Europe. And one of the chapters will cover the economical restructuring in Tallinn. What? Yeah, this was the first one that didn't have a presentation. So would you please raise up? The person from Frekk Forlag. Could you please? Here it is. And now you can sit down again. Thank you. Norway Bus Express, a very famous bus company in Norway. They transport over 3 million passengers each year. Can you please raise up? Over there. And the company is here to evaluate cooperation with an Estonian company regarding delivery and operations of a ticketing system. More software solution. It's more software solutions are creators of composed software for responsive application development. Please raise up, Frode. An excellent digital service company and delivers sustainable solutions in public and private industries. So the Brønnøysund Register Center, could you please raise up over there? They look upon Estonia as the leading countries on one of the leading countries on e-government, and they are especially interested in learning about the latest development and status in this field, but also in the Norwegian-Estonian cooperation in general. And we have Shiron Media. Please raise up. Over there, yeah. Shiron Media sells and produces e-learning courses to companies as tailor-made and as self-shelf products. And they have production teams both in Tallinn and Tartu. Hafenstrom, please raise up. Over there, offer solutions within flexible energy systems. And they're especially interested in port and port cities. And Oko, please raise up. Yeah, over there. They are working in energy efficiency of buildings by offering an innovative and intuitive building management system. And Watchcom Security Group, yeah, it's over there. It's a partner of Hafenstrom, I guess. Your mistake, okay. It's nothing to do with Hafenstrom, but works with information security. Enterprise Estonia, we have already have heard the welcome words from its CEO. And Innovation Norway, Tina Link, over here, assisting Norwegian companies' development here in Estonia. So, these are the Norwegian participants. Now, among you in the audience here, there are Norwegian companies already established in Estonia. There are many Estonian ET companies that have partners or clients in Norway. And there are also important Estonian branch organizations here, as Estonian Ministry of Economy, ICT Demo Center, Estonian Service Industry Association, Development Fund, and last not least, Innovation Norway and Enterprise Estonia. So this is all good people that wants to contribute and have their piece of the future. So please use the coffee break to talk to each other. And see you here again 1540. Thanks.
Engine.
So, good luck. You do well.
All right, are you ready?
Yep.
I hope you all had a nice coffee break, and we're gonna continue with the program. We have all heard about Internet of Things and Internet of Everything, and now there's going to be a new expression, maybe new to us, namely Internet of Business. Please welcome from my sister organization, Estonia ICT Association, Mr. Rolf Martin So. The floors are yours.
So thank you. So today I'm going to, first of all, give you 2 or 3 boring slides about theory. I will explain what real-time economy as a concept is, and secondly, I will show how to apply this theory as well. And actually, as a representative of a cluster organization, we are of course interested in mutual cooperation projects between companies and between international companies as well. So very shortly I will show 2 Estonian Norwegian mutual projects. But before going to the projects right away, I will give a very brief intro what real-time economy is, because as a concept it's still not so well established. And so real-time economy is an environment where transactions are in digital format. So for that we need digital raw material. It's an environment when transactions are automatically generated and completed in real time, both from a business and IT perspective. From IT perspective, it's actually quite clear that you can automate everything. And you can actually say, from IT perspective, from technological perspective, that tax authority can be reduced to one single computer. Theoretically, it is possible. From the business perspective, it's not possible. This is where things get difficult, and this is where you face different challenges. Second slide on theory. For enterprises, also civil servants and citizens, this means that orders, order confirmation, invoices, payments flow from system to system without delays. So once this is achieved, we can actually move towards electronic archiving, electronic bookkeeping, automated accounting, and real-time tax reporting. So a lot of words, but what it means in practice is that I hope that you all know what this is, what is Spotify. So this is the platform for personal music, and which actually just hit 1 billion euro in revenues. And what we are saying with this RTE, or real-time economy, is that doing business should be as easy as creating playlists in Spotify. So pre-Spotify area, everybody was struggling with CDs. So you had to buy CDs, you have to collect them, and if you wanted to listen to some kind of international music, you actually had to travel to get the CD from, let's say, South Africa, for example. Now you can just use Spotify, one platform, and everybody can do it. Even a 3-year-old child can do it. And the aim of RTE is the same, that doing business should be as easy as creating the playlists in Spotify. That means that if 2 business parties do transactions, then everything else related to accounting, reporting will be running in background and will be done automatically. So that's the core idea, that you just kind of register a business transaction, let's say somewhere here, and you don't have to worry anymore about reporting to the tax authority or adding the item to the accounting software, what you actually do today. And why this topic is relevant. So the ambition of, there are at least 5 advantages of real-time economy. First one is efficiency. And here you see that, that our Finnish friends in this project and actually outside the project as well, all the RT academics and experts have actually calculated that theoretically there is 4.5 billion euros laying somewhere, and if you could automate this, Finland would save 4.5 billion euros yearly. And if you interpolate this to the EU level, this would be 300 billion euros of efficiency gains. But real-time economy is not about efficiency only, it's also about transparency. So it actually effectively fights against the shadow economy. So this is very nice that we have this nice concept, and we want that we assume that yeah, that's something we like. We would like to do business as easily as explained earlier. But now the question is, how do we get there? And we as a cluster organization have actually kicked off 2 projects because of that. So and so I will give you an overview as well of those projects that also include partners from Norway. So the first project is digital receipts, and the second one is Internet of Business. So that's true that Internet of Business is it's first time publicly announced here, and I hope that it is truly new term. So first of all, digital receipts. This is what I'm talking about pre-Spotify area, and this picture is not from the 70s or 80s. This is what happens in the accounting departments now in the digital area, and in our project we have actually interviewed some public authorities that have to deal with receipts. And for example, in Tallinn city government, there are 60,000 paper-based receipts which have to be processed every year. But in Finnish State Treasury, there are 600,000 paper-based receipts. And I just calculated this morning what it actually means to process 600,000 paper-based receipts. That means that one person has to scan them, and on average, scanning takes place. One scanning one scan is 5 minutes. So if it's 5 minutes per receipt, it's actually 3 million minutes altogether. And for one employee, full-time employee, that means 24 years of scanning receipts. And now the question is it creating job, this activity, or is it adding some value, this activity, scanning receipts into the digital format? And the answer is no. We need to digitalize that. And as a businesses and from the Spotify perspective, we actually want that those receipts will come directly to our accounting software. So we don't have to carry those receipts with us in wallets and hand them over to bookkeepers, but they could be actually directed automatically to the accounting software. So this is the reality in Estonia, that at the moment each retailer is interested that you would have their loyalty card, and they're developing their independent databases as well, which is okay. But now the second question is how we can connect those databases in a way that from our business perspective we could get those receipts in digital format. And so this is actually all about what the project ambition is. But first of all, vision is very clear that you can access all receipts via internet and accounting software. Ambition is actually to create a mutual standard for the Nordics, And we are actually very, very closely at the moment collaborating with Finland on this. So very, very, very possibly there will be a mutual leadership standard for Estonia and Finland and beyond as well. This year there will be a pilot, and the project will go live in about 1 year from now, and it is co-financed by Norway grants. So as it was advertised in the beginning, that there are 15 very ambitious projects financed by Norway grants, when we are one of those projects. And so this is our core project team. It's led by Omniva, which is a postal service provider in Estonia, similar to Digipost in Norway. But we have actually altogether 6 partners, plus actually very, very widespread collaboration with external partners as well, such as retailers and banks, for example. And so this is already an example of ongoing project which will be alive as well in 1 year from now. Now I'm going to give an overview of proposed project. So it's a proposal which has a clear idea, which has already a consortium, and now we are proposing Horizon 2020 resources for that idea. And it's called Internet of Business. And it's really about this Spotify platform for businesses, Spotify cross-border Spotify platform for businesses. So we want to create a user-friendly, trusted, and integrated digital platform enabling real-time transactions for SMEs. We know quite many initiatives on the EU and national level regarding e-invoicing, for example, or digital signatures, that come from the multilateral triple-down approach. But this concept is actually bottom-up, that businesses come together and pilot, and if it works, actually that could hopefully grow bigger. And so our objectives are that first one is actually to build the platform, and for that we actually want to incorporate it with the mindset of X-Road. And secondly, once we have a platform for cross-border transactions, so we're not talking about national transactions, which is being done everywhere, but each country wants to have this kind of platform, but we are talking about international platform. And the second point is that once you have a platform, you actually need somebody to test it, especially if we are talking about 4 countries in the consortium. And so the second part is actually piloting and making sure that this platform works. And the third part is actually to make sure that it reaches out, that we can get as many SMEs as possible to actually use this platform as well. So let's say that we would have actually users and service providers as well. So this is the idea that we take X-Road, which shows actually how the IT data is put together in Estonia. So all the government databases, more than 900, are connected over internet to X-Road. And more than 2,000 services are being offered based on X-Road. And now we are saying that there has to be the business X-Road as well, that businesses are connected with each other and can consume and offer services via this platform as well. X-Road itself, it's secure and open transport layer, so that just makes sure that, and interoperable as well, so it just connects databases. And the countries we are starting with are Estonia, Norway, Finland, and Bulgaria. And of course, the idea is that if we start piloting with those 4 countries, so if we can actually make transactions possible, which are not the case at all at the moment, between Estonia and Norway, and Estonia and Finland, and Estonia and Bulgaria. Now you can say that I'm very Estonia focused, so all the other connections as well. If we make those possible, we should see some kind of overlaps as well to other countries in Europe. Or this is actually at least the expectation that it actually grows bigger. And these are our project partners. So we have here the 4 first ones are cluster organizations. So we reach to more than 2,000 SMEs by those cluster organizations. And the last ones are actually businesses, but mainly in the field of ICT, that makes it possible, but actually build the platform and test it. And so, as you all know from the European innovation funding, that everything takes time, and now we are in a phase that we have submitted this proposal, and we are just waiting for the feedback. So if this is granted, we can actually continue with the project starting from 1 year from now. But of course, in the field of real-time economy, this is just one example. We have actually quite more ambitions as well in this field. So this is it from my side, and thank you.
Thank you for translating the expression IoT, IOB, Internet of Business, into something at least I could understand. And as I see it now, we have seen this before. In the audience, we have one Norwegian company, More Software Solutions, and one Norwegian government agency, the Brønnøysund Register. They have both done a lot of work in this field. Okay, now we're going to move on to Mr. Tovi Kotka from the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Communication, and he's going to address public-private partnership in developing e-Estonia. Please, the floor is yours.
Right. So, hello to everybody. It's an interesting topic. Talk about public-private partnership. I mean, like, it's fun that you actually, this conference pushed me to think about it. I mean, like, what is the public-private partnership in Estonia? And when you actually start looking at the things, what we have jointly developed here in Estonia, you actually find quite a lot. And historically, for example, we can clearly see that, for example, 10, 15 years ago, it was private sector who actually drove the innovation in Estonia, in Estonia. And now we see that the position actually have been switched, that the Estonian government currently drives the innovation, and a private sector is partnering here. So, but to start with a couple of examples, I mean, like, I think that's I think one of the most important examples, that the national ID card we have is provided by the government, but the infrastructure where we can use it, the certification center, is provided by private sector. So it's a clear innovation, and I think that innovation wouldn't happen without strong public-private partnership like 15 years ago. And that's actually, it's an interesting thing. I mean, like knowing how the situation is in Norway at the moment. I mean, like you have many providers, you have many different ID card type of solutions where you can actually identify yourself. It's actually a good question. I mean, like if you have a small country, in the Estonian case it's 1.3 million people, how many different type of authentication or authorization methods you actually can afford? I mean, like, of course, okay, Norway is a really rich country, so you can afford a lot. I mean, like, so you can even like, I think currently you have like around 4 or 5. So, I mean, like, rich countries around Norway, why not 10 or 11? But in the Estonian case, we thought that 1 is actually enough. I mean, like, and when private sector and public sector is both interested to protect the system, it actually becomes more secure, because everybody's is interested that the solution is protected and usable and easy to use and widely spread and everything. I mean, like, everybody's interested in that. So you actually can join forces and actually develop a better solution. So yeah, in our case, it's 1 card. Of course, we have a mobile ID also, so there are different solutions, but the basics, the infrastructure, is the same for public-private sector. And actually, this is one of the key elements behind Estonian e-society. I mean, like, if you have this thing in place that you actually can authenticate yourself behind the computer, like in location-independent way, it basically gives a solid baseline for any kind of e-services. Yes, back then it was mostly private sector who developed their e-banking and all the other systems. I mean, like, everybody, I think it was some kind of wave in Estonia, or hype even, that, I mean, like, whenever there was a small queue of 3 or 4 people, people started to demand some kind of e-service. I mean, like, why if you have to physically be here, can it be replaced by e-service or something? And this basically forced private sector and public sector to actually develop their solutions. Actually, I have a funny story with that. I mean, like, just a couple of years ago, I think 3 years ago, I was in having a round-the-world trip with my kids, and the first stop was in New York. And if you've ever been in New York, you remember this huge immigration queue you have to pass before you can actually enter the States. And my children were like questioning me, like, "Father, what is it?" I mean, like, what? I mean, like, why people are standing in line? It's a queue. What is a queue? So, because the maximum they have saw was like 4 person in a grocery store, like, so, I mean, having some kind of lines and waitings, like, why? They don't have some kind of e-service to solve that problem? Or why have to wait? And the whole trip, it was a mess, and every time we had to wait somewhere in the lines, they were like, "Okay, Father, you stay here, we will rest somewhere else until you are passing all this." So, I mean, like, your society gets used to it. I mean, like, if everything is on e-services. And I'm glad that our private sector and public sector both like, actually pushed this building this e-society so much, like 10 years ago. But it also has a downside. So, I mean, like, it's funny that if everything is and everything is e-service and simple, and it gets even more simpler, it also might give you a headache. And it's important that this partnership, I mean, the public-private partnership, it shouldn't be ending after development, but it should continue from year to year. To give you some examples, I mean, like, 10 years ago, or a little bit less, 8 years ago, we were very proud that you can establish a company in Estonia with 18 minutes, less than 18 minutes. Like, sounds like a great service. If you think about it, like, why the hell you need to open up a company with 18 minutes? I mean, like, figuring out the company name takes a week at least. Whoever, like, if you have created the company, you most probably agree with me that figuring out the company name took at least a week. So why you need the company establishment in 18 minutes? Okay, you couldn't have it today, you will have it next Monday. No problem. So, but yeah, it's fun. With 18 minutes, you can create a company. On the same time, you can have a bank account and actually start selling or buying something. So, seems great innovation. I mean, like working with Mr. Ansip's team with digital single market strategy. There was like many countries who basically asked European Commission that, please, can we do that at least in European Union, you can open up a company 24 hours. Sounds reasonable. But if you create those kind of e-services, you actually have to be able to face the consequences also. So in the Estonian case, it's not only that reason, but like one of the problems that easy e-service create to you was this. In year 2013, our VAT fraud cases increased 30%. And like, you create a company, you make a fraud case, and when it's discovered, you blow the case up, and voila, you create another company. So you can make these schemes very complicated, extremely complicated. I mean, like 10s, 20, 30 companies be involved, and part of those companies are actually great companies and absolutely like they're doing no bad at all. They even don't know that they're actually participating in the schemes. So the schemes get so complicated that physically those schemes are not, like tax and custom, for example, the fraud team is not able to crack them because it takes too much time to actually go in and do all the, I mean, like analysis and understandings like why this or that particular part, I mean, like how this scheme was created, etc. It takes too much time. And I mean, like, you see a problem. It's also private sector point that this kind of problem should be solved because, I mean, like, if you want to have fair competition on the market, it means that every company obeys the same rules. It can't be that, for example, one company is able to fraud with VAT and gets, for example, 20%, it's 20% advantage because the other one is honest company. So you have to fix that problem. But you can't fix it without private sector collaboration. I mean, like in our case, in Estonian case, the only way we actually could solve it is asking more information from companies. So we basically, that's the classical like scheme. I mean, like there's a seller, there's a buyer, the buyer resells stuff, and there is an end buyer, and there is VAT tax and there is input VAT. Basically, you can ask with B2B deals, you can ask extra paid VAT back from the government. So that's the system how it should work. But you can make it so complicated, but tax and custom basic is not able to figure out like how the money actually went and actually where there was there actually an actual deal or not. So we forced both parties, the seller part and the buyer part, to declare all their deals that are over 1,000 euro. I mean, like if you sell something or if you buy something, you need to write down into a report that, I mean, like, yes, on that day, I bought from that company in this amount, there was a transaction. And of course, I mean, like, it doesn't mean that you actually have to fill physically, manually some kind of report. I mean, like, if you're a normal company in your ERP system, if there's invoice coming in, you register it in the system. If the invoice goes out, also it's in the system. So you don't have to do any extra reporting towards the government. I mean, like, you have all that information already in your system. So it was just one extra button push, basically. But what it actually meant is that the government now has both parties. Like A says, the company A says that, yes, I sold to company B. And the company B also has to state that, yes, we bought from company A. So if the A and B matches, if the date and the amount matches, yes, there was a deal. If there is a mismatch, the tax and custom can go after one specific deal. They don't have to go after the whole accounting anymore like they used to be like previously, but you just after one deal. Why this A and B, why this deal doesn't match? What's the reason? And instantly, because of private sector was willing to give more information, And now it's a very important situation, very important trust question. I mean, like, the government gets all the deals that are over 1,000 euro. So basically, if we talk about business secret, there's no secret. I mean, like, the government has all the business partners from whom you have bought something and to whom you have sold something. Come on, I mean, like, in the hand of competitor, it would be a nice database to understand all this structure, how your business works. I mean, like, your deals basically, I mean, like, banks have that information anyway, but we know that banks can be trusted. Yeah, or they can't, or can be or can't. But this shows that the relationship between public sector and private sector, in Estonia at least, building together this e-society, has reached a level when we can trust a government also. That you can trust giving this information to the government institution, in this case, tax and custom. So everybody understands that if there is some kind of data leak from tax and custom, we need to shut down this instantly. But together, I mean, like, even very complicated deals, now what I just discovered like this, things that took years to discover now takes just a couple of minutes to figure out, I mean, like, what are the fraud cases here. And you can see the result. I mean, like, even though the economical parameters go down, the VAT result goes up. So, for example, the improvement has been 12%. I mean, like, the over VAT improvement. So what it actually means, VAT is the second largest income for the Estonian government. And if second largest income increases 12%, it's a huge result. It's a huge, huge increase. So, and we can achieve that only because we face the consequences. Through e-services, it was easier to manipulate with the market, but as everybody were willing to contribute, and of course there was a huge, lobby against the reform. I mean, like, if you take away from the market tens of millions of euros or even hundreds of millions of euros, it's painful for somebody, and that somebody will make a noise, whatever is the channel, obviously. But it was a great partnership, and this is, I think, one of the best examples how this e-society needs, not only in Estonia, but in every country, a very close relationship between private sector and public sector. You can't build e-society just having it as a private sector goal or a government goal. It has to be very close. And there's another example. I mean, like, Estonians know that we have this 10 million Estonian initiative, that we want to increase the customer base of Estonia, basically, like clearly stating. I mean, like, in Estonia we have a problem that we have a negative birth rate. So even if we have like government campaign, there is no way that we could be able to increase our population up to 10 million. And also we don't benefit from immigrants because, I mean, like, if you think geographically, so we are in the same latitude. So there is Oslo, Stockholm, Tallinn. So, and we all have bad weather. So, like, whenever there is somebody from south looking at north and thinking, maybe I should survive, maybe I can survive in those hard conditions, then you have like 3 choices, or only 4 choices basically. Let's include Finland also. So we have lots of benefits, no benefits. So it's a quite easy choice. I mean, like, obviously they go to Norway. I mean, I don't know what's the rule. If you live 5 years in Norway, you get the government pension, something like that. Looks good. In Estonia, 5 years here, no pension, extra taxes. No, just kidding. But yes, it's a different situation. We actually have in Estonia, we have a certain limit how many immigrants can come into the country every year. It's 1,200. The number has never been reached. Even when we sold living permits to Russians. Like. So what to do? I mean, they don't want to come here. But on the same time, we want, I mean, like, our companies, you think about our companies, I mean, like, everybody wants to be richer. I mean, like, they would like to create more wealth to themselves and to their shareholders, obviously. But, I mean, like, if you want to grow, you need customers. And if customers don't want to come, I mean, like, immigration has been a solution for US. I mean, like, they're not complaining that there are Mexicans in US. I mean, like, without Mexicans, US would be on knees, definitely. Germany, UK, I mean, like, all those countries, they have benefited from immigration a lot. In our case, zero. So, negative. So if the Muhammad doesn't want to come to the mountain has to go to the Muhammad, right? So yeah, and it was a government initiative that why not to start giving out e-residency to the people who actually want to use our society, our e-society, but doesn't want to come here physically because of crappy weather. We did studies. Actually, that's one of the main reasons why not to come to Estonia, crappy weather. So yeah, today is sunny, but you know, I mean, like, you at least in Norway you have snow. I mean, like, last winters we didn't even have snow. So it's like 11 months of mud. Yeah, but without, I mean, like, just giving out e-residency, finding new customers, creating a bigger customer base, yes, government can do that, but it has no reason if there is no private sector services. So private sector actually has to provide banking services, auditing services, accounting services, whatever is the service. But that's a private sector part. So, and now we can see vice versa. I mean, like, government doing something, creating more customers. Currently we get around 100 every week. And we will launch it on Wednesday, the way that you actually can apply over the internet. Like the solution. So we really see that we can increase the customer base for Estonian companies. Again, it's a great example of public-private partnership. And without our private companies coming on board, the whole initiative, worthless, nothing. So yes, I mean, like, very shortly speaking, having only 20 minutes, I mean, like, the relationship between our private sector and public sector has always been good. Without this relationship, there wouldn't be any e-Estonia. I can clearly state that. And then obviously, it can't be only in private sector or in public sector. It has to be both parts. Because for one, and for the government, it's the infrastructure and society. And for private sector, it's mostly services and customers. So thank you for this opportunity to stand in front of you to explain very shortly, very briefly, the collaboration in Estonia. And I'm glad that Estonian companies, in many cases, for example, the same, I mean, the certification service on top of this card, it's not profitable. Okay, it's profitable, but you don't earn big buck here. So it's for some companies, it's still like, how to say, giving something back to the people who actually live in this country. And I'm glad that our companies haven't always followed the money rule, but also the better society and more efficient society rule. So thank you, private sector. If you're here inside the audience, thank you a lot for your collaboration and everything you have put in here during those 20 years. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. It's very impressive to hear.
No questions?
No questions.
How much for a kiss, Carl?
Sorry?
All right.
How much for a kiss?
From a frog or from a lady? We can talk about that.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. We need to ask the questions in the breaks because of the time.
Okay.
So, but it's very interesting to hear what the government in Estonia has managed to do. It's very impressive for us Norwegians. And I am working for the private sector now, but still I have to admit that as an old deputy minister of finance. It's very impressive how you have managed to fight fraud and increase the income from value-added tax. So thank you very much. Well, now we're going to have a new speaker. We're going to hear an example of Norwegian-Estonian IT cooperation, a platform with several energy market players to test new IT solutions. And it's the strategy manager, Mr. Kalle Cook, that's going to present this for us. Please, the floor is yours. Give him a big hand.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Brilliant. Just a bit closer. Better? Okay. As said, my name is Kalle Cook. I'm now working for 4 years for Elering, which is the Estonian Electricity Transmission System Operator, or TSO, shortly. One of my tasks there is to push for new R&D projects inside the company and in cooperation with all of the potential stakeholders inside and outside of Estonia. And this is one of the projects which I was starting to drive a couple of years ago. And what was especially innovative in this project was that it was first time when we actually applied for outside funding. And the reason for applying this funding is not so much that we lack of internal resources. It's not the biggest issue, but taking use of the other sources of funding sometimes motivates you more to be accurate and in time when implementing the project. The other reason was that this is the cooperation project. Also, something which was not done previously. We have, besides Elering, we have 4 partners in this project. The biggest Estonian distribution network operator, one of the major district heat operator, the Estonian Renewable Association, and Ericsson as the core ICT partner. And for some of those partners, the outside funding was and is really relevant. But I would just start to, or actually I started already, okay. I go on with introducing the company a bit. Now, Elering, just in January, we celebrated our 5th anniversary as an independent TSO, which means that early 2010 we were unbundled from the Estonian dominant electricity producer and trader, Eesti Energia, Estonian Energy. This was required by the third energy, EU energy package. Our business, core business is to develop the high voltage grid, high voltage power network. We had to plan to maintain it. The other core element is to operate the electricity system in real time. And we also are responsible for developing the electricity market. We are not a big company in terms of staff, it's less than 150 employees. But in terms of asset value and turnover, well, profitability especially, it's pretty big. It was last year the second biggest company in Estonia in terms of profit. Also, what's relevant, from the beginning of this year, we also are not just the electricity TSO, but we are also the natural gas TSO. So we just early January acquired the majority shareholding in Estonian gas TSO as well. So now also the gas transmission grids are really separated from the dominant gas trader, which is the good motivation now also for other interested traders to enter this market. And we have seen it within this 3 or 4 months that really that has happened. There is much more trading going on, but still there's a lot to be done in coming months and years. I'd like to present this kind of success story or the story of Elering, what we have managed to do in just 5 years when we were first unbundled. So until 2010, almost 100% of the electricity market was controlled by one major player, Estonian Energy, and as of today, the share of that company actually has decreased to around 60%. I think this is one good indicator. The other thing is that we have launched also the Nord Pool Spot power exchange also in Estonia some years ago already, and most of electricity produced and traded in Estonia is sold via the exchange, which is really good for the liquidity and the price transparency. We have invested into new infrastructure a lot. A year ago and a bit more, we commissioned the second cable, a submarine cable between Estonia and Finland, Estlink 2. So the total capacity between these two countries, or actually between Nordics and Baltics, is now 1,000 megawatts, which in most of the times is enough to import cheap Norwegian hydro energy to Estonia. The bottleneck now rather is on the Swedish-Finnish border. And the final thing here I want to mention is the data hub. I mean, the ICT is playing an increasing role in our business as well, and we see a lot of potential there. And I think Estonia, or we were in Estonia, the Elering was the first or the second country in Europe to introduce such kind of data hub. I'm not going to talk about it a lot, but this is the user interface of the data hub. Essentially, it enables everybody to see his or her electricity consumption, say, close to real time. Right now, the data is uploaded there once a day for each hour. So once you have the smart meter installed, remote reading reader installed, you can see your real consumption close to real time, which is quite advanced. When a few months ago talked to a Brussels official who's in charge of quite a big unit in DG Energy, based in Brussels, living in Brussels himself, he was pretty surprised that it's possible to see your consumption more often than once a year. Basically, he receives the bill from his trader, supplier, just once a year, and this is the moment of truth when he actually sees his consumption. And second important functionality of that data hub is that you can give authorizations to to any of the Estonian electricity supplier, so it can access your consumption data, and based on this data can make you an offer. And basically, once you have chosen an electricity supplier, you can switch it every month. There is no special restrictions. Now to EstFeed project, we're still running the project. It has been and is being financed from Norway grants. Thank you, Norway. As said, we have 5 formal partners there, but we have many more subcontractors. We're in the middle of the project, so there are some results, but not all yet, of course. EstFeed, to put it short, it's an energy-related data exchange platform. And on top of that platform, everybody can develop its application, whatever energy-related, or even, I would go more far away, whatever utility service related application. And on the bottom, it takes the it can also communicate with all kind of data sources. So using all kinds of energy-related data, the platform is transmitting this information in a secure way to application owners who are on top here. There has been a mentioning of X-Road a lot. The decision was in the end that the EstFeed can be and should be built on X-Road. So it's just an extra, you may say, layer on X-Road using the same basic functionalities as the X-Road. And as I said, it combines or connects different applications and different data sources and defines the rules how these data sources and applications should communicate with the EstFeed platform. The data hub, which I showed you, would be one of the many data sources for this platform. And I think just using the data from our data hub enables to create and develop many kind of different services, which in the end should provide some efficiencies to different stakeholders, be it consumer or a grid operator or a generator, or all kind of new market players like virtual power plants or aggregators. So the data source can be either open or private. There are a lot of open potential sources which could be combined via this EstFeed platform. And which already are using the X-Road communication platform. For example, the building register, public building register, or maybe some kind of weather forecast systems. Or I think there are hundreds of public databases and registers which you could use as an input for this platform, and based on combining different data sources, you can create your own application, providing one or several services to the end users. Yeah, I think I skipped that. one. So, and this is the picture of what we have reached so far. We have done all the necessary, or close to all the necessary developments to the X-Road. So the STFeed platform as such is there already. Now we are in the process where we are preparing for tenders for developing some pilot applications as well. So part of STFeed project financed by Norway grants is to develop the platform itself plus up to 5 pilot applications. And this is the list of these 5 applications. They are described on the project's website as well, stfeed.ee. You can find more information there, or we also have leaflets which I can share you later on. There is a short description of each of the application. But I would stop here. I understand the questions are not allowed.
Well, of course, it's a burning important question. It is possible.
But there is no.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Maybe we see you tonight. Well, from showing us how Norwegian-Estonian cooperation can succeed in practice, we are going to the last speaker today. Are you still awake? Yeah? Fine. It's about the next step for cooperation, maybe Horizon 2020. Please, the floor is yours, Mr. Magne Ødlin from Innovation Norway.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. My name is Magnar Ødlien. I'm representing Innovation Norway, head office in Oslo. You have already been introduced to our Tallinn office by Tina. And green industry innovation, that's a concept that actually Innovation Norway is very proud of, because it's a kind of child of Innovation Norway, at least green industry innovation as presented under Norway grants. Because back 5-6 years ago, Innovation Norway took the initiative towards then the Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We actually told them that you need to make EEA grants, Norway grants, more business friendly. Because we had seen that almost all programs, they were only suited for public sector. So we actually encouraged the authorities in Norway to make the programs more business friendly. And we got them the task to develop a concept, and the concept was then green industry innovation. And this has been now implemented in 8 different countries in different shapes, because that was the intention. We wanted to make a general concept, and then it would be up to the beneficiary states to define what they would like to focus on. We are currently the operator for 3 programs in Romania, Bulgaria, and Poland, and we are so-called donor program partner in 5 others, including the program in Estonia. And as you know, the program in Estonia has focused on green ICT. And this has been, of course, then supported also by Norway and Innovation Norway. Personally, I have not been so much involved in this program. I followed it from distance, but other people back in Oslo, and not at least our strong and active office in Tallinn, has been very much involved in the cooperation in this program. But now the programs, including the program in Estonia, is coming to a close. We had the probably the last call out now earlier this year. So it's time to think a little bit about the future, because we would like not to lose the momentum. We would like to continue to develop the cooperation between Estonian and Norwegian companies. And then also the negotiations on the next period of the EEA Norway grants is moving very slowly. So I think we can't expect to see new programs, because we hope there will be new business development programs under the next period of EEA Norway grants, but we can't expect them to be implemented before, well, late 2016, maybe even into 2017, before we have programs ready for implementation. And what do we then do in the meantime to keep the momentum, as I said? Would it be other options? Of course, fortunately, we know that you business people, you are not depending on the help from business agencies, public business agencies like Innovation Norway or Enterprise Estonia. But still, we think that we can add something useful into the mix. And one thing we have thought about is to try to build on the momentum, as I said, and try to create more cooperation between Estonian and Norwegian companies when it comes to Horizon 2020. I'm glad that already quite a few of the speakers today have mentioned the Horizon 2020. It's a very, very important program, and I will try to tell you a little bit on why and how we think that Horizon 2020 could be a vehicle for even more cooperation between Estonian and Norwegian companies. I don't need to go too much into the details about Horizon 2020, because I'm sure that you know at least something about it. And it's the biggest EU research and innovation program ever. It's in total a budget of 80 billion euros. That's quite a lot of money. And that's available for the period of 2014 until 2020. And it's very, very important, at least from the Norwegian side, to underline that Norway is participating on equal footing with all the EU member states in Horizon 2020. So it's equally easy to cooperate with a Norwegian company as it would be to cooperate with a Swedish or Finnish or Spanish or whatever. So there's no reason to hesitate. You don't have to ask the questions whether it's possible to cooperate with a Norwegian company or not, because it clearly is. Norway contributes to the budget of Horizon 2020. Well, you can see the figures, quite a lot of money, 18 billion Norwegian kroner. That's the Norwegian entrance fee into Horizon 2020. And of course, the government of Norway would like to get something in return. So they have set up a goal of 2% return of the total budget. And then it's the task of people like us in Innovation Norway to try to help them that happen. So let's see whether we will do that or not. It's very, very important to underline that Horizon 2020 is something very different from the previous programs in the EU. Because as you probably know, they had a framework program on research, the 7th framework program on research, and then they had an innovation program called SIP. But now they have merged everything into one program. So Horizon 2020 is not only a research program, it's a research and innovation program. And that's very, very important to underline, because it's much closer to the market, and then much more relevant and, in my view, more important also to the companies. Because EU has seen that they have done a lot of research, but too little of the useful research have ended up in commercial products. So they need to do something on the innovation side. And that's the Horizon 2020 is then they hope at least to be the answer. And Horizon 2020 take as a starting point the challenges that we all meet. It's very, very easy also if you were asked to set up the challenges for Estonia, or if the Norwegians will be asked to put up the main challenges for Norway, I think it will come up with pretty much the same list as the European Union. And if you then look at the ICT aspect, I think that for most of the challenges, or I think clearly all, you will see that ICT could play a role. And if you compare this with the focus areas of the Green Industry Innovation Program in Estonia, you can see areas like smart, green and integrated transport, secure, clean and efficient energy, and so on. You will recognize that from the criteria in the existing program on green industry innovation. So if you look at the scope, it's quite a lot of similarities between the green industry innovation and what you can find in Horizon 2020, although Horizon 2020, of course, is much broader. And also in Horizon 2020, they have pinpointed some technologies, enabling technologies, including ICT, that is very, very important to the program and to be able to meet the challenges of the Horizon program. So ICT is clearly a very, very important part of Horizon 2020. And of course, the focus is on SMEs. They say that SMEs, the Europe's new darlings. So you should feel a little bit proud if you are an SME, or maybe not. Because if you look at the definition of the European Union, almost 99% of the companies, they are SMEs. So it's more or less everyone. And they count for approximately 2 out of 3 jobs. So SMEs are, of course, very, very important. And they are the focus of also the work we are doing in Norway. And we look at the SME opportunities in Horizon 2020. Of course, you have the thematic calls, more on research-driven side of the program. And then you have all the way to the SME instruments and fast track to innovation. This is then parts of the program very, very close to the market. That's a very, very important thing, that in Horizon 2020 you will find opportunities from basic research and to the market. That's the philosophy and the idea behind the program. Well, I'm not going into the detail about different phases in the SME instrument, that we can talk about if someone is very interested. But we have then also options like fast track to innovation. I'm underlining that because if you look at the SME instrument as such, it's possible for companies to go by their own. They actually don't need a partner. Of course, they can have a partner. But then other parts of the business relevant side in Horizon 2020, they will need consortia. And then it's of course an opening for consortia between the Norwegian, Estonian and other companies and other kind of partners from different countries. Because you can, even if then the companies are in the driver's seat, they can of course also include other types of players like research institutes and so on. But the idea is that the companies, they will be in the driver's seat. Because some of you probably know than the earlier research program. There was a lot of hostage taking because the research institutes, they needed the business partner to be eligible, and then they just found one, and then without a clear role in the project because they just needed one to be eligible. But now this is turned around. It's the businesses, they will need to be in the driver's seat. Yeah, I'm not going to my Eurostars. But then Innovation Norway has a role in the work on Horizon 2020 in Norway. We have a mandate because we are the national contact points for 2 parts of Horizon 2020. That's the SME instrument and for risk capital. Because Horizon 2020 has also included the question of risk capital. Because we can see that some of or many of the companies, they will, sooner or later, they will reach the stage where the capital is the crucial thing. So also that is now addressed by Horizon 2020. But we have the task then to mobilize companies, first and foremost the small and medium-sized companies, but also big companies. And we do that by a lot of different ways, both one-to-one advice to companies. We have mobilizing events and so on. You can see that the other logo there, Enterprise Europe Network. Innovation Norway is a part of Enterprise Europe Network. I mention this because Enterprise Europe Network has been given a formal mandate by Brussels to be involved in Horizon 2020 and to mobilize companies. And of course, also here in Estonia, you have a number of organizations that are Enterprise Europe Network. For instance, Tallinn Science Park. Tina whispered in my ears that Tallinn Science Park is present here today. Yes? Yes? And you are Enterprise Europe Network? Yes. Yes? Yeah, exactly. So then that's, of course, also a kind of platform for possible cooperation, because Enterprise Europe Network has, as I said, a formal mandate to help companies in Horizon 2020. Yeah, I'll just show you what we do with the companies. We'll discuss with them from the ideas and target and strategy all the way to they present the application for Horizon 2020. We do partner search, advice on how to prepare the application and so on. And as regards then partner search, it's of course then possible to use all kind of channels. Enterprise Europe Network we will use our office in Tallinn and so on. They will use all their contacts. So we will try to then help Norwegian, Estonian companies to find each other. So the end of Norway grants, could that be a start of Horizon 2020? As illustrated by the CEO of Enterprise Estonia at the beginning of this seminar, there's a lot of good projects already running under the Green Industry Innovation in Estonia, and that should be built on. So Horizon 2020, you can find a thematic match, so maybe that would be an idea to continue, and at least that could be then a bridge until we hopefully will get some new Norway grants, EA grants program running, maybe in 2 years' time. So it's a good cooperation exists. Innovation Norway has its presence in Estonia, very familiar with such programs. And of course, they also have a strong partnership with Enterprise Estonia and other Estonian organizations. So the way forward, we have discussed a lot how we could help creating a partnership in Horizon 2020. And we have also discussed a lot how we could benefit from the Green Industry Innovation Program. And one of the ideas we have discussed is that there are some bilateral funds, money set aside for creating bilateral relations in the Green Industry Innovation Programs. These funds, they have not been fully utilized, so the people responsible for them, also in Brussels and in Oslo, they have been searching for ideas on how we could spend money. We have, in some countries, already proposed that why not establish some kind of small grant scheme, giving the businesses, the companies, the possibility to apply for funding for preparing applications for Horizon 2020. We have kind of a green light for that from Brussels and Oslo. So hopefully that idea can be discussed further, at least in some countries. I'm not sure, I don't know how much money you have left in Estonia after you have financed the projects, but that's a kind of idea we have been discussing in order to give some incentives for creating partnerships between companies. And of course, then we have the more traditional partner search that we can do, as I said, through Innovation Norway in Estonia or through Enterprise Europe Network. So we hope to see some more cooperation related to Horizon 2020, because Horizon 2020 is a big priority, not only in the European Union, but also in Norway. So we would like to see some cooperation. And I'm glad to see that, hear that from other speakers today, that already some projects and project applications are involving both Estonian and Norwegian entities. Okay, I'll stop there.
Thank you, Mr. Ödlin. Are there any questions? Oh, there.
Who are basically evaluating the Horizon calls or projects. And do you have any kind of strength, or for example, if you are saying, okay, you have little money to support the application as such, or writing the application, then that is not so important. Most important is to overcome 25 times overwritten projects. Do you have any diplomatic strength if, for example, we'll decide, we'll take Norway as a partner? Do you have diplomatic strength to push through such kind of projects? Any idea?
Well,
thank you.
Well, of course, Norway, as all other countries, try to influence the content of the different work programs and calls. But as it comes to influencing the evaluation of applications, that's definitely not possible, because you will not know who will assess the application. And that will be unheard of if you try to influence that through diplomatic channels, because that's some kind of not just a kind of, it's an independent assessment made by experts that will give their points. So that's not possible. But of course, in the early stage of the process, we will try to influence the work programs and the scope of the calls.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ödlin. Give him a big hand. Well, it's good to hear that that there are great plans for how the governments still can support companies how to succeed in their innovations, green innovations. So we are following this process with very great interest. Okay, we are at the end of the academically part of the program, and if it was something in the program that you didn't, that was very unclear to you, or if you would like to see something, see it again, then you can go to the Facebook page of the Innovation Norway Baltics and find a link there with a live feed to the seminar today. And tonight, the ambassador of Norway has opened the doors to his home and hosting a dinner for us tonight. So I hope to see a lot of you there. I've been told that it's fully booked, so yeah, but I hope to see a lot of you there tonight. So then we can go on with our discussions. Okay, this has been a very interesting day. I think we have built another floor in the Estonian Norwegian ICT cooperation house. So I wish you all succeed and progress, and thank you, and have a nice night. Bye.